Hello. Thank you for electing to spend a few minutes with us. First, before I get started, does everybody know who SolarWinds is? I see emphatic nods from this gentleman. I appreciate that. Some of you probably have not heard of SolarWinds before. Some of you have probably heard of SolarWinds, and you may not know all the cool things we're up to recently, including things like software as a service observability. But I wanted to set the stage a little bit, less about us and more about what's going on in IT environments today. So when we talk to customers, and this probably applies to most of you or your customers, depending on sort of what role you are in this audience, we're talking to them more and more about trying to accelerate business transformation and trying to really figure out how to embrace things like flexible consumption models, which is a very cloud-first thing, how they handle the complexity of security in their environment and productivity, especially as IT budgets continue to be constrained and complexity continues to increase almost exponentially. When we talk about complexity, we're talking about things like multi-cloud. So for many of us, the reality is that we have both on-premises cloud environments as well as public cloud environments, and in some cases sort of more dedicated spaces. But what's happening as we increase the amount of environments and increase the complexity in these environments, it becomes more and more important to be able to understand in a single place what is going on across all of my environments, so that I can make good on the type of things that I'm measured against, right? Which is things like uptime for my services, things like responsiveness, things like making sure that the business is achieving its goals, right? Right now, I think our industry writ large lacks sort of common standards, and this is starting to change with things like OTel becoming more and more adopted and more advanced across different technology stacks. But being able to understand how to analyze, interpret this data often comes down to what the training is in your own environment, how senior the people are in your environment. And this is one of those things that is not a new trend, but it's something that it again becomes so much more onerous to be able to understand this in a meaningful way that you can quickly take action and get time to resolve, time to detect problems down to the minimum they can, when you're trying to teach people, every new person that comes in the door, all the intricacies of your environment and how it's different from everybody else's. So we believe we need to move forward towards a more common standard, right? Security is more and more part of observability. What that means is being able to understand what's going on in your environment, what's up, what's down, what's slow, is actually both an input and a necessary thing to coordinate with your security teams, right? And so being able to start to see a single pane of glass across security and observability becomes more and more important as we move forward. And then of course, this is sort of the everlasting problem in our IT and DevOps communities, which is how do we make sure to meet our SLAs and SLOs and get predictability around how we're going to how that is going to affect our ability to move forward as a business. So I'm going to build this one out. The managing what you can't see is kind of is a big problem for us. What that means is when you add complexity to your environment, you start to add niche tool sets that allow you to work with each of these new technologies and each of these new spaces. And what happens over time is you get such fragmented visibility. There's an analogy that I like to use that's like a forest for the trees analogy, right? You can stare at this tree or this tree or this tree, but if there's a forest fire over here, you won't see it by staring at any of the individual trees, right? And so there's a need to be able to see the forest, and seeing the forest requires, again, being able to gain visibility across all of your environments and all of your technologies. I'll stop on that part because what I'm really excited to talk about today and what I want to take you through that hopefully helps you understand the types of things that you can get out of observability solutions is a customer example that we have with a healthcare data management company, and for that I've got Peter with me who is going to talk a little bit about that customer and that customer use case. So, without further ado, let's start, Peter, with what that environment looks like. What does that customer have in terms of their IT stack, their complexity, their cloud, and what does their personnel look like that are trying to manage that stack? Because I think the audience is probably going to see a few similarities when we talk about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Matter of fact, real quick, how many people here are purely cloud native, 100% cloud, or plan to go there? Okay, cool. How many people are purely in an on-prem, you've got brick and mortar data center, private cloud? Okay, how many people here are in a hybrid environment? It's probably why you're here to listen to this session, right? So this is the story we're going to share with you on one of our customers. The environment they're in, it's pretty amazing. Again, they're a data management for healthcare. Patients, hospitals, their practices. It's about getting access to business records, patient information, employee information, so they have accessibility, it's compliant, and this company's got about 6 to 8 applications they provide their customers, and those applications also each have a database. They're on-prem and in the cloud. Matter of fact, they start out on-prem and they're dramatically growing their cloud base, but they're going to continue to be both on-prem and in the cloud. They're running monolithic N-tier applications and now growing a lot of microservices based. They're running Kubernetes and containers both on-prem and now in AWS in the cloud, okay? They've got about 400 plus customers. Each one of those customers are running their applications and databases. There's open source databases as well as some proprietary databases. So think about the size of this implementation in North America. They've got petabytes of storage. Some of their customer databases are over 300 terabytes for an individual customer, okay? They are managing this environment, and by the way, their whole business is the delivery of that service to those customers, those practices, and those hospitals, and customer satisfaction is the difference between whether they grow their business and keep their business. They've got 10 developers supporting those applications and databases. Now they have a DevOps team, but their DevOps team, when you think DevOps, you think software delivery and microservices. Well, their DevOps team both monitors their on-prem and their cloud infrastructure. So they got 10 developers and they've got this small team managing their infrastructure. So that's kind of their environment today, and their growth is in the cloud with AWS. Matter of fact, they made an acquisition of a company that was 100% AWS. So they're definitely scaling AWS while they still have their on-prem environment.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about their challenges. What kind of challenges were they facing, right, in this multi-cloud environment?
So I bet some of you have had this experience. So I'm going to talk about multiple challenges, but the big one is something happens, and the way they find out is their customer, that practice, that doctor, that whoever it is in that hospital can't get access to those patient records. And all of a sudden they get, and then this company's support team gets called, hey, I've got a problem. None of us want that, right? We want to be able to know when there's a problem or before there's a problem if it's going to be a problem. So they want to go from reactive to proactive. They've got the infrastructure covered pretty good, but they don't really have a good way today to monitor their applications and their databases. They've got a couple of different tools, but the time it's taking them to figure out what's going on, again, more times than not, it's the customer saying, hey, this isn't working. So their challenge right now is to not only really get a handle of what's going on, but become more proactive, but they want to be the ones, if there is an issue, they want to be the ones that can rectify that, let their customer know before it actually impacts their business.
So now, that was the state, right, when they came and they came and talked to us, right? So yeah. What were they looking at? What were they asking us about? When they came to us, what did they say? Hey, we need to we're looking for this, and how were they thinking about what type of change it would make to the future state of their business.
Yeah, I'm going to give you, I've been around forever, I'm an old guy, and I'll give you a little story. And for those of you who've been around, IT used to be known as the black hole that just sucked revenue from a company. It was this necessary evil. Well, especially in this company's case, and a lot of companies, IT has become inextricably woven into the fabric of a company's strategy. This company's success is directly related to their service delivery from IT. So they needed to take a different approach. Application monitoring, application observability is not a nice to have. 5, 6 years ago, maybe it was nice and some of the developers or SREs would play around. It is absolutely critical that you understand what's going on. The complexity that Josh talked about earlier, this company needed a new way to monitor their application, their databases. They wanted both their developers, their DevOps groups to use the same set of offerings to understand what's going on in their environment. They were looking for an APM tool, but the other thing they needed to know, they wanted to know the user's perspective of availability, performance, and even satisfaction with those 400 plus applications, so they can look at it from the front end through to the back end, down to the database, to the infrastructure, and be able to correlate quickly if there was an issue, what was causing that issue. So they were really looking for an observability offering that helped them with digital experience as well as application performance monitoring.
All right, so let's take a pause for a second though. One of the things that's really valuable in addition to getting a handle on observability is some of the native capability and the advantages they're getting from moving to AWS, that they're seeing when they move to AWS. So let's talk a little bit about what they're getting out of AWS.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that already or are doing that now, and that, I mean, oversimplifying, it's scale and velocity, right? It's how do today I've got to manage my on-prem environment, that infrastructure, and if I've got to scale up and I've got to spin up some additional servers, like I talked to you about the amount of storage this company's using, petabytes of data. Well, they are a growing company, and not just through acquisition, but through organic growth. How can I quickly deploy, get some new applications up and running, and how can I take advantage of that additional focus? I mean, really on the, let's just say an AWS environment with Kubernetes and containerization, providing very focused infrastructure needs, whether it's CPU storage, specific to those applications they're building. So they really needed to be able to scale quickly. They wanted to be able to spin up and deploy new applications as efficiently as possible, and at the same time providing the right level of performance that'll support their customer needs. And with AWS, it just made that whole thing so much easier. They get rid of a lot of the management they didn't need to worry about, but more importantly, they've got the velocity and speed by which they can spin up and really take advantage, and eventually going to leveraging like serverless is another project they're working on. So all of this were reasons why AWS was a really important decision for them to make.
So let's bring it back to observability. So now they've got this environment that is both on-prem, and they've got AWS and cloud capabilities. They're looking to be able to get in front of and no longer be reactionary to customers that are calling them and informing them as to what is going on. Right? They have looked for how they integrate in that context. They've self-identified that APM and digital experience monitoring are going to be keys to getting that single pane of glass, right? They've really embraced some of this new technology, whether it's Kubernetes, cloud, containers, right, on AWS, and they really do still have this on-prem footprint that they have to manage in tandem, right? So let's talk about the impact of observability for this customer.
All right, yeah, no, it's great. And by the way, I'm going to talk about the impact they've had leveraging SolarWinds as observability, but the concept is so important. Josh was talking about the trees and the forest, right? Well, you know, monitoring is a foundation for observability. It's a key one. And if you look at the academic definition of observability, people just talk metrics, traces, and logs in your traditional APM. It's bigger than that. If you truly want to understand the state of your systems, your environment, you need to look at all the elements that impact that system. Whether it's the metrics, the traces, whether it's the user experience. The way we've built our SolarWinds observability offering, we've provided all of that in a single environment. Now, especially for the hybrid world. Again, I said there's a couple of you guys who are cloud native, and that's great, and our observability offering was built from the ground up as a cloud native offering. It leverages open telemetry, but we believe a hybrid world is going to continue to exist, and many of you are in that world. So our observability offering not only provides you the application performance and database, log management, your digital experience, real user or synthetics, and I want to tell you a story about this customer and how important that was to them, but we also included the on-prem stuff. So whether you're transitioning or you're always going to have one foot in each, one single pane of glass, your networks, switches, your routers and hubs sitting in your data centers, in your remote offices, your on-prem server farms, your virtualization, all of that, again, and being able to correlate that. If you're running applications that have a back end running in the data center and you've got your front end running in the cloud, we believe that for customers, giving them a hybrid offering, a single observability offering, regardless of your IT stack. Now, with this company, the way they've implemented it, a couple of things came true. Number one, their two biggest goals, pretty obvious but really important, service delivery and customer satisfaction. This customer said to us that when they implemented observability, and yeah, it was our observability offering, but when they said the company became a better company. Because remember, their company is IT, right? It is technology. To me, that was flattering, but more importantly, their customer service and their customer satisfaction. He told me stories about now, not only are they being more proactive, but there's times the customer will come to them and saying, hey, we've got this problem, and they'll go and show them using the digital experience as well as the back end exactly what's going on, what's working, and finding out, you know what, there was an issue, it had nothing to do with their application. Not that that matters, but more importantly, they could help the customer realize this was something outside the application, the database, but it was something within their IT environment. So the fact that they can communicate that, they can regularly report on that accurately and let the customer know what's going on. Another example was between the database and the application, they had a situation where there was a network connection that they couldn't figure out, like everything was fine. They were able to, because of the correlation, go and do that. So observability, the reason it's such a big deal, and not because we all put it on our damn product names, because we all do, right? But if you care about understanding the implications of service delivery across the system, the application you're delivering, it's critical to look at it in a single approach. And then the other thing is having multiple teams leveraging the same data. And that's what we've done with the observability, and that's the impact that they've seen at this data management company.
I think I really like the idea of being able to take a dashboard that you're looking at internally in your environment and show it to one of your customers to show them what the issue is, right? The level of the confidence that you can have in your own tooling and the level of confidence that when you show it to one of your customers that they'll understand immediately what you're showing them, that to me is really exciting. That's the type of thing we're all here for, right? Is to be able to simplify and communicate as clearly as we can back and forth. The last thing I just wanted to say was, again, unified observability across your cloud environments, whether they're on-prem, whether they're in the cloud, right? That's to me really, really critical, right? If you're a cloud native solution, it's about being able to understand all the different cloud environments that you operate in. But in that context, right, being able to really get that richness of data, that single pane of glass, and that easy to understand visualization that says, here's the problem, here's how I can fix it. Like, these are the types of things that we're really excited about. So with that context, right, SolarWinds is an AWS partner. We are available in the AWS marketplace. Our booth, if you exit this theater and you look for a big orange wall on the right there, just about, I don't know, 100 feet down, that's where we are. Easy to come by. And if you were interested in hearing more today, I think, or hearing more about the customer from today, I think we have the opportunity where you can talk to us and we can connect you directly with them.
Yeah, sorry we didn't have our customer here today, but if you want to talk to this customer and learn more about them, or a bunch of different customers depending on your environment, by the way, I'll be over there, we'll both be over there for a few minutes if you have any questions, because I think we're about to run out of time. But we're in 2159 too, if you want to see this product running live. Again, I think if you know SolarWinds, you probably don't know about this. And if you don't know SolarWinds, I think you'll want to. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.